Welcome to Myco Minute, conversations about collaboration brought to you by the capacity creators at Myco Consulting LLC, where we help higher ed, nonprofit, and philanthropic leaders advance the initiatives they care about most.
This is Deb Mashek, and today I am with Kristina Powers, who is the founder and president of the Institute for Effectiveness in Higher Education. So, Kristina, welcome.
Oh, thanks, Deb. It's so good to see you, and thanks for having me.
So, first of all, for those who don't know you, I'm wondering if you can tell us a bit about your background and the fascinating work that you're doing now at the Institute.
Great, thanks. So I have been in higher ed for a little over 20 years, and I am a data wonk, a data lover. I think you've even called me a data maven, which might be one of my favorite.
You're definitely a data maven, yeah.
One of my favorite titles. And so I help colleges and universities take their data and information and help them tell their story. In doing that, comporting to higher ed standards and norms so that external folks can understand what they're doing. My background's in institutional research, accreditation, assessment, all of those fun topics. I also have developed a knack for helping institutions get off some different federal naughty lists, if you will, so where they need some additional bolstering. So one of the exciting projects that we have going on at the Institute is a focus on transfer in students.
Oh man, so I, as you know, am on LinkedIn with you, and I have been every week waiting for the next nugget from this report. It's just been absolutely fascinating. So yeah, tell us what are you doing with this report?
Thank you. And thanks for tuning into our 16-week series on it.
It's such a cool way to structure it too. Sorry to interrupt, but really cool.
Oh, good. Yeah, kind of a little Netflix-ish, right? You know, you can binge watch if you want to, and catch up for those who haven't been part of that series. But we're focused on transfer in students because the higher ed system is really set up for students to transfer, right? We know that students are headed into, let's say, community college, or even if they're transferring from a four-year institution, and the number of traditional high school students is going to decline in about 5 years. So colleges and universities are going to need to up their game with transfer in populations and services. So the question is, well, who's doing transfer in well? Well, we've taken a look at the data. I've identified institutions that are overachieving with their transfer in populations. And if that wasn't enough, we've then looked at their websites to see how they're communicating. And this is one of your area of expertise, Deb, so I know you're eager to chat about this. But we're looking at how they're communicating what they offer to transfer in students on their website. So it's not enough to just be good in the data results, but how are you really creating that support structure and showing that on your website? So we're excited to elevate those institutions.
Yeah, so I think first of all, if we can rewind just a minute, the big question is, why is transferring in so hard? Why is this a problem? What is the problem these data are trying to solve, or could help inform how we solve the problem? If that makes sense. Yeah.
It does. Yeah. Transfer in is complicated, right? There's not a, this course doesn't exactly equate to this course over here. One student is further along in their program than another. So it's not exactly a level playing field when every transfer student is starting. So each student needs their kind of customized program package and meeting them where they're at versus a student who's coming from high school. They're all coming with generally the same number of credits, maybe a couple of AP credits, maybe a class in high school or a college class in high school, but generally they're all starting with no college credits.
Kitty visit.
I love your new staff.
Right. Yeah. No, this is Savage Princess Cupcake, who takes care of all the details around the house.
I love it.
So I gotta say, I like to think in metaphors, and a metaphor that's coming to mind here is it's as though you have someone standing on this platform who has a blindfold on, and you're telling them, okay, leap, I swear there's another platform there, but there's really only one other platform and you have no idea where it is in that 360. And we expect our transfer students to just be able to take the jump. They might hit, they might not hit, they might lose all of their credits or some of their credits. And what a scary prospect that must be for the individual.
Yeah, I mean, we all have moved at some point in time, right? You moved houses, you moved apartments, you even moved cities. I know, Deb, you moved across country recently or semi-recently.
Yeah, I got it 3 years ago already, but yeah, just like,
Wow.
it's big to just move.
It's big to move. And that's the same thing with transfer students, that you knew your grocery store, you knew where your dentist office was, and you got to know this ecosystem. And now you have to go learn this new one. And this one's on a different street, and this one's further away, and this one has different office hours. And so that intake of learning a new system is just a lot to process and digest, in addition to taking classes, doing well in those classes. And so obviously staying at an institution is ideal if that makes sense for your major, but it doesn't happen automatically. And that's why colleges and universities are now beginning to focus in on those really bolstering their support systems. And it's using what they have already, not going out and developing brand new things. It's saying, well, we have this service. How can we adjust that for our transfer students that it will resonate with them a little bit more?
And so one of the things I love about your report is you're focusing, like you said, on the overachievers, so the rock stars. I'm wondering, what are they doing and who are these institutions? Which ones are really elevating in your eyes?
Yeah, so we've got over the 16 weeks, you'll see that some institutions appear on multiple lists. So we're looking at the entire transfer experience from admissions through obtaining a job. So for example, it's not just having a transfer admissions counselor to help you through that process. What about scholarships? What about integrating the family? Maybe your spouse, significant other, even children of the student, so that they understand what is happening for this prospective student and how they can support them. We do that with our high school students, right? We bring in their parents, their guardians, their loved ones, and tell them how to support them. Why aren't we doing that for our transfer students as well?
It's a great point. So like thinking about the whole social system that student exists in and how to support the system that supports the student to be successful.
Absolutely. And then you asked about a couple of institutions. I'm going to do a shout out to two of them. National University. And if folks don't know National University, they will or they should. They are just rocking it with their transfer in process, their student focusedness on that process, and really making all of their materials. And you'll see this on the website links that we've found on their website. All of their materials are meant to be really student focused so that the student can quickly ascertain, does this fit for me? How can I take what I've done already and move forward at National University? And then the University of Delaware, they have been for quite some time been doing a number of amazing things for prospective students that might be working different shifts in their day job or evening job. And so when a student is moved from day shift to night shift, they can still continue in their program because they just move over to a different track that has classes that better align. Oh, and I got to give one more. University of Central Florida, they do a letter they have admissions letters and they have not now, but here's how letters. And so you would think that most people think about admissions and denial letters. It's not really about a denial. Every individual with the right or with the enough passion and energy they lay out for the prospective student, here's how you can gain admissions in here. So if you do X, Y, and Z, maybe that's get a few more classes, maybe that's get your grades up, but it creates this pathway, this custom plan for a student so that they can be successful at the institution. It really shifts the conversation and like the thinking, the psychology in it from here's how I get there, here's how I enroll,
right?
Rather than I'm denied, now where do I start?
Well, and I gotta say, what strikes me about that is it kind of goes back to that metaphor. It says, this is where you jump. I can show you exactly. And it's not enough to have pathways available. They have to be visible. And that lens of being able to see what the path, like even where the pathway is, that's a very specialized lens that we have as people who are internal to our institutions. But to ask a student to navigate that, just like try to figure out how you get in, seems really unfair. And that they're going through the work of making it explicit is admirable. One of the other tools that you highlighted in the Netflix series version of the releases on LinkedIn is the calculator. Tell me about the calculator.
Yeah, so there's some institutions out there, we've highlighted them on our website, that they empower prospective students to plug in their classes that they've already taken at other institutions, and they can see whether or not that class is going to transfer. How helpful that is, that if you know that you would like to apply to Noble State University, that I can plug that in a prospective course that I'm thinking of taking and know whether or not that's going to transfer before I've even taken the class. And it just gives you that sense of my time, my money is going to be considered and valued when I present this course on my transcript at some later date. And really, it makes a lot of sense. Colleges and universities have been transferring students for decades. They have this library and catalog of classes that transfer. Why not create a database that allows students to look to see if that class is going to transfer and just be even more transparent about it?
Yeah, and treating the individual as the agentic, informed decision makers that they are is just, it feels really nice. It feels right.
And you don't have to wait in line and wait
Yeah.
weeks to, see what, whether or not that class is going to transfer. Good old internet, and check out if your classes are going to come over.
So, I mean, these reports, this is, I think, really cool about the Institute is that not only are you doing direct work with your client institutions, but you're also going through what I see as an incredible lift to create knowledge, to make it available, not just to your clients, but to the higher ed community as a whole, looking to really lift us all up. I'm curious if you can walk me through how you do a report like this. I look at it and I'm just in awe. Like, what are your data sources? How do you approach this? What does it take to put something like this together?
Yeah, so what this current series that we're working on transfer and student success is really a multi-year project in the making. So yes, I have my clients and servicing their specific custom needs, but I also feel like my research interests combined with higher ed needs and giving back and kind of looking forward to see how can I take what I know, even if people aren't asking about the questions yet, how can I gather that information and present that in a way that helps multiple institutions? And that's just part of being a higher ed professional, right? That you are contributing to the field. So I've been working on this project and the data set, which I've called Reality Check, which helps institutions to determine, given our institutional characteristics and the students we serve, what is the completion rate that we could expect to receive? So everybody wants 100% graduation rate. Who doesn't, right? But if you don't get that, does that mean you failed? No, of course you say, well, given the resources that we had, this is what we could reasonably expect to accomplish. And so I've been working on that with and utilizing that with institutions for about 3 years. And probably about a year and a half ago, I started thinking, well, how can I leverage this national data set that I've created? How can I leverage it in a way that can help inform some answers to questions that higher ed isn't able to answer quite yet? And so that's kind of how the transfer in piece was born, but also looking out at the landscape and saying, well, what else is on the horizon? What do I think that my clients should be looking at and should be focusing in on? And while I would love to serve all 7,000 iPad institutions in the iPEDS universe, that's just not possible. So this is a way that I can have some reach without, and institutions can leverage some free resources without having to work with all 7,000 of them.
So this is interesting. So you mentioned that this is you're drawing from a database that you created, and you also, I know, are an iPEDS maven. And then you also are looking at, for the transfer report, you were doing content analysis of the websites.
Yep.
That sounds really complex and involved, and like you would need to be a good collaborator.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love your expertise on the collaboration elements and looking at your posts and your recent collaboration guide, is really inspiring to help me think about collaborating, because the data are just sitting there for people to use. And it really takes people combined with the data and the technology to kind of get this all moving in the right direction. And so I've taken the iPEDS data and leveraged that and created this new data set with a series of regression analyses. But that's not making the data come alive. It really then needs to take it to that next level of then looking at websites. And what I'm hoping to kind of spark or foster with this 16-week series is that collaboration that you're talking about. And I've had a few colleagues, interested new friends reach out and ask a little bit more about the series and want to connect some more. So I'm beginning to see these early pieces of collaboration. I'm also beginning to see some more conversation happen at colleges and universities that are so suggesting that there's some more collaboration happening at those campuses. How do I know that? Well, I'm getting some more LinkedIn connections from other folks that I know, because they are going and saying, I've seen this recent series, you should follow it too. And so when I get these clusters of people at the same institution who I don't know, all reaching out in a short period of time on LinkedIn to connect, that tells me that there's some collaboration beginning to happen there. And that is super exciting.
And talk about an impact, both that you're able to, something you're creating is stirring that pool of interest within these local spaces. But also, one of the things I commented on one of your LinkedIn posts is I'm totally craving a panel discussion now among these high achieving schools to listen in and to learn from them. And so the idea that the conversation can happen at this micro level, but also at the systems level, and eventually perhaps there'll be a whole change in how we approach the transfer questions in higher ed.
Yeah, and I think, for the colleagues that I've talked with, transfer in populations have been a little bit more on the back burner. Let's be honest. And so there's like this excitement that transfer is rising up to be more of not only a local level discussion, but even on a state or national level discussion. So for example, Representative Berman from in California, he hosted a series with the heads of all the systems in California to elevate the conversation and the importance on transfer students and transfer student success. So we are seeing transfer in focus and that collaboration like we just really have never seen in higher ed to date. So it's super exciting when non-higher ed people, when we've got, elected officials that are joining in on that conversation. That really tells me that, not only am I on the right path, but all, other colleagues who have just been kind of tantalizing over and waiting to just launch some of their transfer in ideas. It's exciting.
Yeah, and that this is more than an articulation agreement. I mean, it's not just a piece of paper, that there are real people here who are navigating a lot of complexities. So thank you for your work on that. And if people are interested in signing up to receive the report or to see elements of the series, where should they go?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. They can go to instituteforeffectiveness.org. They can sign up for the newsletter and they'll get the entire compendium of the 16-week series. So even if they missed it, they can also follow me on LinkedIn. So they can look for me, Kristina Powers, and pick up where we are at the series. I think we're in week 5 now.
Great. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over with a question about how you work with your campus clients, your client campuses. One of the things in your mission statement, or the mission involves, quote, making higher education more effective as a whole. And I grabbed onto that as a whole phrase. And I'm curious, what parts, when you think about the campus, what parts come together? Who are you in conversation with when you're working with a campus? And then, of course, from my collaboration perspective, I'm curious, how are you putting people in conversations together with the data to create change on the campuses?
Yeah, I love that question because so many people think, data is a back end, kind of independent, quiet process, and it couldn't be further from that. I mean, I guess it could be, but it's not as effective unless it's coming out and being connected with people and subject matter experts. And I can take the data and tell you what I think it says, but it's more important when the subject matter expert that lives and breathes that data every single day with the students, with financial aid, when they can say what that data really means and what's influencing it. So for the clients that I'm working with, whether it's through institutional research bridge services or through helping to support their upcoming accreditation needs, all of those efforts really take everybody's piece of the elephant coming together. And so this involves really faculty, staff, folks who are on the very front lines with students, the president, the board of trustees. So it's really going to run that collaboration gamut. And thinking of I love the question, what are some of my strategies? How do I pull people together?
Yeah.
I guess I would say I look for for pain points that people get frustrated at, because people want to solve problems, right? They want to make some improvements. And so when I see somebody having a pain point, I'll give you an example. I just saw a colleague, one of my clients, they're going through kind of pulling together of a lot of different documents for a federal submission. And I saw that in the email, no one was responding to his email for where do I find this policy? And I didn't know where to find the policy either, but I thought, okay, well, I can at least help facilitate and move the conversation a little bit just simply by responding and saying, calling out someone, oh, might you have it in this type of a document? I often see this type of policy in this manual. Do you have something like that? And it got the conversation moving. And we found where that policy lived and, the resource to go with it. And then he emailed me and said, thank you so much for helping, because I can often get, kind of stuck, and he has 400 other things to do for pulling all of these materials together. I was just doing it because, that's the collaborative approach, right? No one was really sure this was his problem. well, it's everybody's problem, because if we don't pass this federal piece, then we're all kind of, we're in this ship together.
Yeah.
So I look for those kind of pain points that I think I have something to add. Now, sometimes it's not my bailiwick and I can't help. But for the ones where I can, I don't shy away. I dive in.
And we've worked together on some smaller projects too. And I think the other thing that I really appreciated that you did is you would share not necessarily like a report, but a visual, or here's what the data are looking like. And then it was a conversation about what could you do with this? And it was a deep dive with all of us around the table about, is this useful, or what would make this more useful? Or can this answer the questions that you're interested in? And it was very much a conversation as opposed to, here's your data dump, we are done.
Check the box.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point about having the visual. I also will listen to what I think I hear people describing. And to like deliver back, is this what you were thinking? You didn't ask for, you asked for enrollment, but I think you were really asking for it broken out by undergrad versus grad. Is this what you wanted? Because in their mind, it's perfectly clear, right? But
Yeah.
when you put it on paper, now you've given people something to react to. And that opens up that other door for collaboration, that now it's about the sheet of paper and not this you versus me.
And I think the other thing, as you're talking, that elevates for me is when we're working across constituencies like this, where faculty don't necessarily know that there is this thing called the IPEDS database, or the incredible number of variables that are sitting in there, or a student may not know that, that there is a difference between, say, transfer in high school to college enrollments, and just the different vocabularies and assumptions, or even when we don't know what questions we could ask because we don't know what variables are there. So here you are doing this incredibly close listening and connecting the dots with all of these stakeholders in mind. That's a real contribution.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. And I mean, IPEDS is overwhelming, right? And that's just one federal data set. So, and it can be a little awkward for some really smart people to ask for help. That puts them in a really vulnerable situation. So I guess maybe I love this conversation because it's also making me realize offering up suggestions, even when not asked, can help just kind of help people feel a little bit more comfortable that they didn't have to ask, a stupid question.
Yeah. And in terms of how we cultivate trust, that issue of being vulnerable and taking the risk of saying, I don't know, is it's one of but one of the ways that we create closeness and trust, and we're actually able to engage in more risk taking on the collaborative front. So great work.
Always so insightful. And your point about trust is so, so important. And for institutional research data people, a big part of our work is the trust, that people trust our work, trust our data. And if we lose that trust, that's kind of a biggie. So
especially given the role these data play in accreditation, and that, like, they're showing you what's under the hood, and wow, that's a very trusting sort of behavior. So Kristina, I'm looking at the time and I think we should wind up. So first of all, thank you for being here. And one of the things we didn't talk about is your work on helping people become higher ed consultants. And you've played an important role in my own transition. So I'm grateful for your mentorship and your leadership on that front as well. And if you could just say again how people can connect with you so that they can also benefit from your incredible wisdom and generosity.
Thanks, Deb. And you are doing some amazing work. If folks haven't checked out your website, they will find some incredible work on collaboration and really helping institutions to take that to the next level. So I'm so excited to be to be even just an ounce part of the work that you're doing. But if they want to connect with me, LinkedIn is a great spot. They can search for my name, Kristina Powers. They can also search for the Institute for Effectiveness in Higher Education. We also have a separate page that they can follow. And then, of course, the Institute for Effectiveness.org is where they'll find me, resources, and other links and past blogs.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Deb. Really, really appreciate being part.